independent, and I think that's a genuine argument that should be respected.
Tess Hartman, you're up and down to London. Do you have any concerns about the border?
Well, I do, because if I'm going to have to stand in a queue to make a daily commercial trip to business down to London, and it's going to take me hours, that's going to have a serious impact on the business day. Well, the British government, the Home Secretary, has said that she would have to instigate border control, and I'm surprised that you're against that, because you do want a separate country. So why are you so offended by the idea that they're going to have to police that border? They're going to have to watch that border in terms of immigration.
Scotland will be in the common travel area with the rest of the UK and Ireland. Ireland and the UK, two independent countries.
You don't know what a government in London would say.
We're all going to hear competing claims in this debate. We've got to apply common sense. You know, for the UK to force Scotland out of the common travel area, or to force Scotland out of Stirling, wouldn't just mean the UK acting against Scotland's interests, but acting against England's interests as well.
Let me just put that to Margaret Curran. Margaret Curran, would a Labour government in Westminster institute border controls?
I don't think we would want border controls, but the key rests on if, for example, Scotland decided that it wanted to have a different immigration policy. Hang on, Nicola, let me speak. Hang on, Nicola, let me speak. If Scotland wanted a different immigration policy, which had direct implications for England, then people may have to say, not maybe through policy, but they may have to police it differently. So the issue is, Nicola can't guarantee that in an independent Scotland. It may or may not happen, depending on the policies implemented.
You spend 50% of your time in London or Glasgow. You may have to stop at the border.
Oh, it's got to work for me. I live and work on both sides. I mean, I have access to a world city called London. There could easily be a world city called Stuttgart, New York, Paris, London, Munich. And we're all Europeans. We're all on the island of the UK. We all will be able to move around very, very easily. It's the most sensible thing to do.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to ask a very final question of Nicola about identity. Is this debate being characterised by economic questions, cultural questions, political questions? What is this debate going to be about in the next year?
I think it will be a mixture of all of those things. For me, it's not about identity, first and foremost. I'm the granddaughter of an English woman. I represent a lot of folk in the south side of Glasgow who support independence, but if asked their national identity, would say Pakistani or Indian. So it's not about identity. I think the best thing that could happen to the relationship between England and Scotland is Scotland becoming independent and it being a relationship of equals. The best comment I've heard tonight is the ladies here. You know, let's stop arguing. Margaret started, as I did, by saying we don't doubt Scotland can be independent. Let's accept that and let's focus on the kind of country we want to be and how we build that kind of country.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard what our panel have had to say, and indeed you have quizzed them. Now it's time to ruminate before you vote live on Newsnight tonight. So they heard the arguments, and our audience of undecided voters have been thinking hard about how to cast their votes as they wander around this spectacular setting of the Union Train Bridge on the border between England and Scotland, which could be an international crossing point a year from now. So these men and women, the undecided, hold the future of Scotland and the United Kingdom in their hands on Newsnight at least. I have 2 ballot boxes here, and we'll be counting live as people decide, should Scotland be an independent country, yes or no? And with me to give an instant reaction, the businesswoman and unionist Tessa Hartman is here again, and the cultural commentator and pro-independence campaigner Pat Kane. So the time for talking is over. Let's start the vote. Bring it on. During the debate, wasn't it extraordinary? The woman who said that, you know, the first time she really felt engaged is when we started talking about what it felt like to be Scottish, and a lot of it's going to come down to that, Pat Kane.
I think it
Whether
is,
you like it or not.
I think it's a necessary fact war. I think it's a grown-up act to try and figure out how to run your own country. I don't think there's any point in downgrading the fact that it's properly demanding to think about independence.
But do you think this is going to be about head or heart or a mixture of both?
I think a mixture of both. And it's programmes like these when people can get to debate and fire and argue and almost educate themselves into where they see it going.
They're growing. There's a big expansion going on both head and heart. It's a good thing. It's a basically good thing.
Now, wait a minute. Tell me, how did you vote?
Yes.
And why did you vote yes? Because you were undecided.
Yeah, I was undecided before, but I think the delivery and the oratory was definitely there for the yes campaign. But I still feel there's a lot of content and answers that are still required for some of the questions raised tonight, but definitely more on the yes side.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And tell me, you've just voted no. So, what was it about the debate that influenced you tonight?
There was nothing in the debate tonight or anything up to this point that's actually convinced me that moving towards independence is going to be to any benefit of anyone in Scotland.
You're a businessman?
I'm not a businessman, no. I'm a fire officer. Have been a fire officer for a number of years, and where I am at the moment, I'm quite happy with the governance that we have.
Thank you very much indeed, thank you. The arguments, though, about, whether it's, politicians or whether it's lawyers, economists, whatever, the point is there's not going to be a settled position. There will always be different positions and different figures. And so, therefore, it's going to be very difficult for people to make, they'll make informed decisions, maybe, but it'll have to be on hunches as well.
It'll have to be on hunches. It also has to be about looking around you in the world and seeing what other small nations are capable of and can do. And I think one of the things is, are we confident enough to do it? I think we're totally capable and we're totally resourced to do it. I think there's just that wee step, which I hope Scots go over the line, about being confident about doing it, because all these other countries that we might measure ourselves against have had their national revolutions at the turn of the century. They got their independence. We're a bit late to the game. I think we can get there.
But it's a different kind of conversation here, isn't it? It is not about, this is not about being out in the streets like Catalonia.
No,
it's nothing like that.
At all.
It is a much more measured...
Very douce conversation, Kirsty, as you know.
And also, it'll also be the case that for a lot of Scots, they will not publicly say what they think till towards the end, because people are quite naturally reticent.
Well, they're very reticent, and I think that's where we all have to start to speak up and inform each other. But it means so many different things to different people, because, and I think that's interesting about tonight, it's not really about what the politicians say anymore, it's about what it means for me as a mother, as a wife, as a small business person, and it's got so many ramifications for just everybody that it's got to be a personal and a heart decision as well.
Let me just connect to someone else now. You've voted yes. So what's your reasoning?
Well, I think in the end you have to weigh up the long-term benefits of independence against the short-term risks and uncertainties, and I think you've got to hopefully believe that those short-term risks are manageable. So you've got to go for it. So, I mean,
basically what you're doing is you're not looking at the next 2 or 3 years, but you're saying that it's not just for Christmas. You're making a decision for the next generation.
Well, exactly, and the next generation after that. So I think you've got to hope that Scotland standing on its own can, sort its problem and go for it, whereas all these short-term risks, which I think are definitely there, hopefully are manageable, so let's go for it.
Thank you very much indeed. And let's see now, we've got a few more that are sort of coming through still. But the idea that there's going to be some kind of different relationship with England if there's a yes vote is absolutely true, isn't it? Absolutely. I mean, it's bound to be.
It's a separate state, so it has to function as a separate entity. You've put up a border. Your biggest trading partner is now not that partner. You're a separate, independent nation working with your own financial situations.
Let's cut to the chase. There will be a difference. And the reason why the Scottish Parliament had to exist was because we had a consensus of values that we wanted to go in a different direction. That gap has actually increased since the time of the Scottish Parliament. So at some point, we're going to have to act on that consensus of values. Independence allows us to do that. And it's a realisation of a process whereby you restore a parliament, you feel you've got the capability for the powers, and you want to go the next step. That's a positive act. It's not an anti-anything act.
Well, we have our vote here, and the number who are going to vote yes for independence is 30, and the number who are going to vote no, they wish to stay in the Union, is 18.
Oh, wow.
So, first reaction to that?
Well done, everyone.
Does that surprise you, given that what we've been hearing now about and hearing and seeing in opinion polls?
OK, well, the theory that we have in Yes Scotland is that the more that people engage with the issues, the more likely they are to drift to yes. But the point about the process is it's an enlarging process. It's about connecting up your head and your heart. It's about dealing with facts, but also dealing with aspirations. It joins it all together.
Your reaction to that?
I am surprised, but I think what's interesting, so many of the people are still putting the faith that the Scottish Government can deliver all these promises, because the reality is they don't know the answers. And they said there, I'm not very sure of how it's going to be, but I'm still going to vote yes. That's a big gamble to take. It's a very big gamble. And I hope that gamble pays off, but I'm still absolutely 100% against it.
Come on, you.
No!
Well, thank you very much. Of course, that was completely unscientific, but debates like these will be happening all over Scotland between now and September the 18th, 2014. Tonight is just the start. And if you want to catch up with what's been happening at the Liberal Democrat conference in Glasgow, James Landale will have the highlights immediately after this programme. But from the beautiful border between England and Scotland, from the River Tweed, a very good night.